Alright guys, how's it going? I'm the Crown Clown, and today we are doing What If Deku Was Reptile? The final part. The series isn't going to go the way that it does in canon from this point forward because of the Mortal Kombat tournament. And basically, there's no villain attack on the whole training camp thing because of the truce that is going on between Fujin and Reptile side. I can't really go on and tell you everybody that's on the team, but just know there will be quite a few people. Like I said, it's a 5v5 with Deku, Enosa, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Asui fighting off against the three confirmed people: Reptile, Stain, and Shigaraki. That's the only three that's confirmed for the villain. So with that, let's jump into this, because this is the final part. It's all led up to this moment, and I hope you guys enjoy this final, because this has been really fun, but I need to end it before I start losing the passion for this series in particular. And another thing, the Mafia What If, it's not doing very well at all. So if you guys want it to keep going, I need to see that you guys want it. I need to see the views on it, because if not, I'm just gonna cancel the series. I'm gonna put one more part up in a few days. It won't be on its normal schedule. It'll be a few days from now, because I was in the middle of moving, but you guys won't really notice because I'm re-uploading Daredevil to get you guys ready for basically what comes next, the multiverse. And I know a lot of you guys have not seen my Daredevil series, so I decided to put it up to today's standards. I'm not messing with the story at all. I thought about redoing it, but I'm just going to re-upload it and lead into the multiverse. And actually, after the multiverse, you're going to see a lot of stuff that's actually going to happen in that multiverse event that will affect a good majority of the series. And that's going to be coming up soon, just as soon as I'm settled in with my new place. So, with that out of the way, let's jump right on in after about 3 minutes. So, let's jump into it. Basically, where last left off, Deku was getting ready for the Mortal Kombat tournament. And it's time for training camp, because Deku was exempt from the final exams. And no, Ida didn't die in the whole Stain attack, so yeah. I just said that Ida was there, but I said that because of them not being there. Yeah, but Stain didn't kill Ida. No. Oh, it's a little side tangent, but to the person who keeps thinking that I kill off the same people in all my what ifs, you clearly haven't seen the what if stories I put out, because I don't kill off the same characters multiple times. Like, Ida's gone in so many different directions, I can't even begin to tell you all of them. Koda, he's hardly ever died. At Inko, sometimes she does die, sometimes she lives, sometimes it's a little bit worse. It really just depends, or sometimes she comes right back. It varies. None of my stories are the same. It doesn't follow a same pattern or anything. So, yeah. Every single story I put out, I make sure not to copy from the previous story. So, with that, I hope you enjoy. And I hope you go back and watch my other series. Daredevil is being re-uploaded and reformatted to current standards, but the audio is still from my earlier days in YouTube. So, with that out of the way, let's jump in to the finale. And basically, the whole training camp arc, it actually pays off a lot for Deku. Seeing as how he's being trained in a forest where he can actually cut loose. He's not in a dojo where he doesn't get to cut loose all that time, but he has a problem that he's having to deal with. His actions with Setsuna actually happen, and they have a consequence to them. And that consequences are that Setsuna and Asui are really just right there at him saying, you need to pick one. And Deku tells Setsuna she didn't mean a thing to him. He's with Asui. And that's gonna be how it is. So, with that, Setsuna's a little heartbroken, but she understands it was a one-time thing. She kind of messed up her whole plan because she thought that Deku would get hooked with doing it with her, but oh well. She understands and she goes her separate way. And all throughout the rest of the training camp, Deku, he doesn't really interact with anybody. Even Kota. He doesn't interact with Kota at all because he's not interested in being a babysitter. He's got a lot more pressing matters on his mind, considering the whole state of the future world order depends on this Mortal Kombat tournament. And he knows he has to fight his dad. And he's just not ready for it. So, training camp goes on with Deku really pushing his limits. And Bakugo sees this as he's really worried about his friend. Bakugo's never seen Deku push himself this hard. Todoroki's not really standing down either, but even he's worried about Deku. After all, what Deku said to him, coming back, it's twisted. Something's not right with him. It's like he's more vicious, cruel. He's not like who he used to be. A kid who is laid back, nonchalant about everything is gone. Now you have someone more animalistic, cruel, more brutal, and focused on killing. And during this time, Enosa is training with Fujin the whole time. And honestly, the whole provisional licensing exam thing isn't going to happen in this time. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. You'll understand why when we get there. But basically, Enosa's training for the tournament. And Fujin's actually teaching him everything he knows. But Raiden is also stepping up to help train. So Enosa is finally getting some actual combat training from Raiden. And that goes very well for Enosa. Seeing as how Raiden's a more brutalized fighter, Enosa learns to be brutal. He learns to be ruthless. Something that Raiden sees a lot more in Deku than anybody else. Even more so than Todoroki. Deku instantly knows how to grasp, how to be brutal. He's instinctual about it. And that's what impresses Raiden the most. So, after he gets done training with Enosa for about a few days, he actually misses training Deku. He's not going to lie about that. Fujin knows that Deku would be hesitant to train under Raiden again, but Raiden says that he'll work things over as he teleports to where Deku is, in the forest. As Deku says, "What do you want?" And Raiden says, "Let me train you again. Let me help you improve. Please. I know I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm trying to make up for that. So please, allow me." As Deku says, "I need you to train me. So my personal feelings don't really matter. I need to know how to be brutal. I need to be vicious, lethal. I can't make a mistake and let somebody who could hurt someone again walk away. I know my dad said he doesn't want me being a killer, but every single person we're going up against will go for the kill. We can't afford to hold back. We have to be willing to kill. And Raiden says, you need to be willing to do a fatality. As Deku says, I know, and I will. As Raiden says, very well. Come with me. So when Asui sees Deku, she tries to run over there to him, but honestly, Deku teleports away with Raiden right before she can even get to him. With that, Asui feels kind of left out. And to be honest, Asui notices that her quirk is getting a lot stronger. And the name that she chose, Chameleon, it might actually fit her a lot. Because yes, Asui did choose the name Chameleon, and I know Asui can turn invisible, but she wasn't there yet in the last part, so that's why I said she couldn't. So with that, anyway, Asui keeps training to develop her quirk and is able to unlock her invisible form. So, she finally grows into the name Chameleon. Meanwhile, Deku is up there in Raiden's Sky Temple. It's a lot different from Fujin's, as Raiden's is built for combat. So, Raiden teaches Deku everything he can within the time limit, as Scorpion actually takes Todoroki and Bakugo, so they weren't at that training camp. They were at the Shiroryu Fire Gardens having Mortal Kombat practice every day from dusk till dawn. So, everyone's getting a lot more experience. Asui, she needed that quirk training to actually grow into a viable fighter. It's not something that she really could use the more combat practice, since she mainly uses her agility anyway. Her quirk would be her best bet to gain strength quickly. And it paid off. So with that, Asui's ready, Deku's ready, Enosa is ready, Bakugo and Todoroki are equally ready. The only person who's not really committed to killing a person in this tournament is Asui. As the day of the tournament finally arrives, and basically, everybody that is competing in the tournament gets their hero licenses, because that's a requirement to be in the Mortal Kombat tournament. You have to be a hero, and you have to be chosen. So, to accommodate the trainees, they're given their hero licenses, which allows them to make split-on-the-snap decisions over the powers of life and death. So, meaning, when they commit a fatality, they won't be punished. However, the rest of the class still has to go through. And, well, they all kind of passed anyway, so that's why I say it really didn't happen. So, the Mortal Kombat tournament is here. And the first people up are to show off the villain's full roster. Like I said, there were 2 people missing. And I realized that one of them was supposed to be Shigaraki kept the secret, but I kind of spoiled that earlier. But Muscular is still there. That leaves one more. And if you know anything about Mortal Kombat, you know that there's always been an extra ninja. In the beginning, there was the blue and the yellow. You have their current versions, with Todoroki being the blue, Bakugo being the yellow. And then came a secret boss fight in Mortal Kombat 3, as that was the green ninja, Reptile. There was an extra ninja added on over time, a red ninja. So yes, the final fighter is Ermac. So, the roster is Reptile, Ermac, 2 legendary combatants. And the next 3 are Shigaraki, Muscular, and Stain. 3 new bloods, but people with experience in killing, and who are extremely powerful and skilled. Skill is where Stain comes in, because he's not really all that powerful, but I mean, his skill is what helped him out the majority. So with that, the combatants are set, the stage is ready, and it is time for Mortal Kombat to begin. So, the first fight among them all is, well, I don't know if you guys can guess it, but Reptile versus Asui. Yep. The proctor of this exam, of this tournament, who has to be a villain, is All for One. And of course, you have Raiden and Fujin there for the heroes. So, with that out of the way, Asui steps up, Reptile steps up. As Reptile says, "So, who are you?" As Asui steps up in her new outfit, who is mainly wearing a reverse of Deku's. Basically, the majority of it being black with some green lace around it. As she calls herself Chameleon. As Reptile says, "I remembered a chameleon once before. She your mother?" As Asui says, "No, I just took up the name." As Reptile says, "Pity, you may have actually stood a chance if she was." As All for One says, "Round 1, fight." As the tournament begins, and Asui puts up a good fight against Reptile, matching him for a little bit in that tournament setting, but Reptile's experience far outshines anything Asui could do. And while Asui gets beaten down, and before Reptile can kill her, she forfeits the match. As Raiden and Fujin step in, saving Asui's life, and Reptile is forced to back off. So, with 1 win for the villains, the next fight, Izuku versus Ermac. As Ermac says, "We are many, you are but one." As Deku says, "You are annoying, shut the fuck up." As he states, "The name's Reptile. I'm the new one. And at the end of this, I'll be the only one." As Ermac says, "Doubtful, but we'll test your strength." As Deku says, "We this, we that. Can't you just find one personality and stick with it?" As Ermac just states, "We are not that." As All for One says, "Fight." As Deku turns invisible and rushes. He has full cowling activated as well. So, yeah, Ermac can't see him, but he can sense him. As he tries to manipulate the area, but Deku dodges it and kicks him square in the head, breaking his jaw. Just like how Raiden did before, as he takes his knee and slams it into Ermac's stomach and sends an acid ball straight through Ermac's chest, killing him. As Ermac's dead body falls to the floor, Deku says, flawless victory. As Raiden says, fatality. And basically, Deku says, I'm coming for you, bitch. Pointing right at Reptile. Reptile, seeing how much Deku's grown, is actually a little excited to fight his son again. And everybody there knows that that's his son. With the score's tied, it's ready for the next match. Enosa's up, and his fight is against Muscular. So with this, Enosa's actually pretty ready, and Muscular is extremely ready. He's ready to kill someone. Enosa's got a few tricks up his sleeve though. As Muscular charges at Enosa uses the wind to counter. Although not with a hard strike, it's more like a guiding wind that allows him to pick up and slam Muscular into the ground on the other side. As he takes his foot, spins it up high, and slams it in to Muscular's back. As Enosa is actually using a sword. A short sword, kind of like Fujin does in MK11. So yes. As Muscular gets up, basically, Enosa slashes at his tendons, cutting them. And he does the same thing to his leg before taking the wind and doing a super-powered blast straight to his face, breaking not only his jaw, but fracturing his eye socket on his right side, which just completely destroys his eye. As Muscular gets ready to fall to the floor, Enosa takes him and snaps his spine, paralyzing him permanently. So now, even though Muscular's alive, he's defeated. And with that, another win for the heroes. The villains are starting to get a little bit worried. So, it's now Bakugo's turn. And who is he up against? He's up against Stain, of course. As Stain says, you want to be a hero, huh? Tell me, what's your reasoning? As Bakugo says, to put idiots like you behind bars. Or in a body bag. As Stain just tells him, you're a sorry sack of shit to be taking up the name Scorpion. As Bakugo just says, Scorpion's not my name. Sure, I might be taking up the mantle someday, but that day's not today. For now, call me Dynamite. As he sets off explosions. And Stain knows he's going to have to be careful and skillful. It's a flat area. There's nothing for him to bounce around on or climb on. And this guy's got aerial capabilities. As All For One says, round one, start. As basically, Stain blitzes Bakugo, taking out his sword and going for the slash to try and get some blood, but Bakugo dodges. As Stain throws his throwing knives out, Bakugo realizes he's caught midair. As he tries to avoid one, he realizes there's 10 of them. And Stain keeps throwing more. So he's having to try and dodge in mid-air without touching the ground, or else he wouldn't have enough time to dodge any other attacks. And he gets nicked by some, like, there's 3 of them that enter his body. One in his arm, the others in his legs. And he decides to teleport behind Stain and hit him, but Stain's ready for it. As he takes out his sword and slashes into Bakugo's side. Bakugo screams out, because yes, Shigaraki's had a lot of time, well, not Shigaraki, but Stain's had a lot of time to be training with Reptile and Ermac, and Ermac has teleportation. So even though Ermac's dead now, he did help Stain get a huge power boost in skill and combat capabilities. And even though Bakugo's been training in Mortal Kombat, Stains has a lot more experience. It's just not a good matchup for him. As Stain tears into Bakugo's stomach, leaving an open wound. As Bakugo can just feel the blood draining from his body, he comes down to his knees. He takes his sword up and slams it straight through Bakugo's back, killing him on the spot. As Bakugo drops down to the ground, as Deku says, "No!" Rage overcomes Deku as he looks at Stain and says, "I swear you will die." As Stain says, "I'd like to see you try." As Todoroki says, "I'm the one that'll kill you, bitch. You're gonna pay for what you did." As Stain says, "My previous method with one kid already was too lenient. I didn't kill him, but I hurt him. You guys may know him. Called himself Ingenium or some shit like that." Deku says, "Ida, you're the one who hurt him?" Stain says, "Guilty as charged. But to be honest, I should have done more." As he walks off the stage, as Scorpion can feel Bakugo's life faded from existence, he sits down and says, "I should have done better. I should have found him earlier." As he sits in his fire gardens, and a single tear comes to Scorpion's eyes, as he says, "Rest easy, Shirai Ryu warrior, Bakugo Katsuki." As Bakugo's corpse is picked up by Deku and carried and laid there, as Raiden closes his wounds and takes his eyes and shuts them. Meanwhile, Todoroki steps onto the stage as he puts his fist down into the blood of his fallen comrade. He closes it, points it right at Shigaraki and tells him, "You're dead." As Shigaraki says, "Tough talk. Let's see if you can pull it off, hero." As All For One says, "Round 1. Fight." And Todoroki doesn't even use his eyes. He just pretty much just straight up blitzes at Shigaraki. Not really fully understanding what Shigaraki's quirk is, considering the last time that they saw each other was the USJ. As pretty much Todoroki goes to use his flames as he burns Shigaraki's arm. Shigaraki can't, decay flames, so he does get burned a lot. As he tries to touch Todoroki at all, but he can't, as Todoroki burns Shigaraki's arm to ash and creates an ice sword and slashes his other leg apart, looks at Stain, and beheads Shigaraki right then and there, slamming his ice sword straight through the skull as it hits the ground. And all he does is walk out of the ring. But before he completely exits, he says, "You're next." And with that, the heroes take the lead and have the advantage in this 5v5 fight. Reptile, seeing that, is saying that he's gonna have to put in a lot more work now. As Stain says apparently he is too. As Stain tells him, "Well, at least you killed yours. Mine's still living like a coward, though. As Asui apologizes for forfeiting, and Deku says it's fine. We'd have to go until their whole team's beat anyway. And Todoroki says the same thing goes for us. And so, the next match is ready. Enosa versus Reptile. And Reptile is ready for it. He knows all of Fujin's abilities, and since Enosa's nowhere near Fujin's strength, Reptile's got this. So, he turns himself invisible and takes a play out of Deku's book, blitzing Enosa and slamming him with acid, burning his arm. But before he does anything, he spits acid in his eyes, burning them closed, blinding Enosa. As Enosa can't see anymore, he's going haywire. He can't sense Reptile. He hasn't been taught that far yet. As Fujin says, "Damn it, I should have prepared him for this." As Raiden says, "Yes, you should have." As basically, Reptile goes to spit acid at Enosa one more time, but Enosa falls to the ground, so the acid misses. And it actually hits Todoroki in the face. And that's what gives him his burn. As Todoroki's like, ah! He showers it in the eyes, stopping the burning. As he immediately starts to thaw it out so he doesn't get too much of, oh, sorry, I just whacked my mic there. But he doesn't get freezer burn. Because if it's on there for a while before it thaws, he will get freezer burn. But by doing that and slowly thawing it, like melting it like it normally would, he doesn't get freezer burn. So with that, Todoroki's eyes burned, but he can still see out of it, although his vision is not perfect anymore. And Reptile says, "That's what you get for standing so close, kid." As it wasn't targeted towards Todoroki, it is just considered an accident. Although Reptile really just helped Stain out a whole lot. As Fujin tells Todoroki he should forfeit and just let Deku take it from here. And Todoroki says, "No, I'm up next. And I know that motherfucker's gonna have it at me. And I promised I would be the one to kill him. After that, I'll forfeit." As Fujin says, "Very well." As basically, Enosa's getting his ass kicked by Reptile. And Reptile, he basically makes sure Enosa won't be that big of a threat. And he goes for a fatality, but Enosa fights it off. So Enosa only loses an arm. As Enosa says, "I give up, I surrender." And the match is stopped, and Reptile's given the point. And he tells his son, "That's how you do it." However, the blood loss, it's too much. Enosa passes out, and before Raiden can stop the bleeding, it's pretty much Enosa's on death's door right now. He has too much blood loss. And Fujin realizes that if he doesn't get help now, he's not going to survive. As Raiden tells Fujin to go, he'll stay here. As Fujin takes Enosa to the nearest hospital in a hurry to try and save his life. Meanwhile, Todoroki's up against Stain. And Stain is ready for it. And as soon as All For One says, round 1, fight, Todoroki uses his ice this time as a chance to try and block Stain. But Stain kinda just cuts right through it. As he tries to go for Todoroki's newly blinded side, figuratively, Todoroki just lights it up on fire, making Stain come back into his line of sight where he's not so fuzzy. So, basically, Todoroki's playing more of a defensive game, but he does make his ice sword and is ready for anything that, Stain could try to do. And this is when Todoroki remembers an ability he was taught a long time ago, but he never thought it would come in handy. Ice Shell and Ice Clone. So, Todoroki puts an ice shell around his body, basically a thin layer of ice that will freeze the opponent, and he does an ice clone. It's just standing there, so Stain decides to take the invitation and run past it, but it doesn't vaporize. As Todoroki takes the blow from Stain, as Stain's sword snaps and starts to freeze, and that's when Todoroki kicks him in the stomach back into the ice clone, freezing him instantly. And while he's frozen, Todoroki makes an ice hammer and slams it into Stain's head, just shattering Stain's head. It's a fatality. As Todoroki says, should have brought a shovel so I could bury him, as he passes out. And Raiden says he is not in any condition to continue fighting. This next match will be the final one. As All For One says yes, it would seem so. Or maybe it won't be. And no, we're not having an All Might versus All For One fight. Raiden already has a sneaky suspicion at what All For One's planning. But he's just letting things ride out. As Deku enters the stage, and basically Raiden heals Todoroki best he can. Like, Todoroki's fatigued. He's gonna be out for a while. And Reptile, he enters, father and son, staring each other down. As Reptile tells him, I always knew it'd come down to this. Me versus you. Let's see. How much have you actually improved since the night I killed your father? Let's see, what else did I do? Oh, that's right. I beat that little frog bitch of yours nearly to death. I blinded your friend, tore his arm off. Let's see, what else? Oh, that's right, I gave your other friend that scar back there. What else have you lost? That's right, your best friend in the whole world just got stabbed through the heart and killed today. So, really, how are you doing, son? Are you reconsidering my offer to join me in this whole tournament and let us win? As Deku tells him, my only purpose now is killing you. That's it. I know my dad, Hisashi Midoriya, wouldn't want me to kill you. But I've thought about what you said. I'm willing to become you. I've already took your name, but I'm making sure it's used for a different purpose. So killing you's all that remains. Once I do that, I'm free of you. I will never have you as a burden ever again. As basically, Reptile looks at Deku and tells him, "You ain't got the balls for it, kid. All you're ever gonna be is just some kid trying to be me." That is when Deku tells him to shut up and fight. As before All For One can say to fight, Deku says, "Fight!" as they rush towards each other. As Deku and Reptile slam into each other, Deku activates full cowling and goes for the kill as he slams his head against Reptile's, making Reptile stumble back and giving Deku the room he needs, as he creates an acid ball and does a spinning around, and he slaps Reptile with the acid. And with All For One, the acid's a lot stronger, and that actually burns into Reptile's face as he actually starts to scream out in pain, saying, "What is this?" As Deku, throughout all his training and all that stuff, he's actually at 50%. On top of his already increased strength, speed, agility, acid powers, everything just enhancing each other and stacking on top, he's stronger than Reptile now. Before they were even, but that was before Deku's training with Raiden, as Raiden eliminated all impurities. So, Deku keeps going. He slams his leg right out from underneath Reptile as Reptile falls, but before he does, he lets his own acid attack out and slams it into Deku, burning him. As Deku falls back down, they're even on the ground, burned and burned. So, Reptile does a spinning kick right to Deku's jaw, not breaking it, but he does fracture it, because Deku was turning his head with the kick, minimizing the damage. Anyways, they both get back up and Deku rushes. So, whenever that happens, Reptile's ready. As he turns invisible, Deku lets out the acid cloud as he waits. As soon as he can see where the disturbance from the acid is, he strikes with a mean roundhouse kick to the head as he damages Reptile's skull, basically fracturing his eye. Same thing Enosa did to, Muscular. But Reptile's a lot more durable, so Reptile can take it better. But his eye is fuzzy now. He can't really see out of it all that well. And the fight goes back and forth, each person landing blow after blow, their blood covering the arena, as Deku and Reptile are hanging back. They're both out of breath. Deku's holding on a little bit stronger though, as he slams his fist right into Reptile, as Reptile slips on the blood as they land back down. And that's when Deku just unloads on him, saying, "I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you." As Reptile's not able to speak, as there's no one to stop Deku this time, as Deku just keeps punching and punching and punching. Reptile's skin starts to break. As Deku takes one good acid ball in his hand and he slams it on Reptile's face, burning away at his flesh down to the skeleton, and then he slams his fist straight through the skull of Reptile, killing him permanently. As that's done, it's over. Mortal Kombat has been decided. As Deku looks at Raiden and says, "I win," as he falls unconscious as he hits the ground. And basically, All For One says, "Well, time to eliminate the nuisance." As he gets his powers rearing up, Raiden says, "No, you don't." As he teleports over there and electrocutes All For One, shocking him so bad that his skin starts to tear open as Raiden basically creates a blade of raw lightning energy and decapitates All For One, dropping his head, rolling it right off his shoulders, as Raiden stomps it, crushing All For One's skull, saying, "This is over." So, after that, Deku wakes up in the hospital, and he sees Asui asleep, holding his hand, as he says, "Where am I?" As he's looking around and he can barely see everything. It's all fuzzy. His vision's not fully restored yet, even though he took no damage to it, as Raiden tells him to rest. His body just needs rest. There's no tournament for another couple 100 years. You won't be fighting in it again. Enjoy your life. As he tells Deku, "Oh, you are now the Mortal Kombat champion. What will you do?" As Deku says, "I'm just gonna focus on my school and focus on building a better life for myself." As Asui wakes up and says, "Yeah, same here." As Todoroki basically enters the room and tells him, "Yeah, man, what I heard, you had one hell of a fight. Kinda sad I had to bow out, but do you think Bakugo was watching us?" As Deku says, "Yeah, I think he was. Because at the end there, I completely lost my senses. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was fighting. And when Reptile fell, I was just swinging. It's all I could do. I felt a push on my back that pushed me down there. I kept slamming my fist, and that's what let me win. So yeah, I think he was watching us. Just hope we did him proud." As Todoroki says, "I'm sure we did, pal. Sure we did." As he tells him that Scorpion will not take on another Shiraiyu student ever again. He swore the Shiraiyu is officially a dead clan now. Bakugo is the only member. And with that, there's no need for another Shiraiyu. The Lin Kuei told me I'm no longer allowed at the temple, so I actually had to make nice with my dad, and, well, let's just say it's taking some time to get used to, but he's happy I'm back, and we're starting to build a relationship. So, there is that. And he says, "Well, I gotta go. I need to visit my mom. After all, her and Dad really didn't see eye to eye, but they're still happy. Because yes, Todoroki's mom is not in a mental hospital. But basically, Todoroki walks off, tells Deku to get a speedy recovery, as Enosa died of his injuries. So, Asui spends the time there with Deku at the hospital. And basically, it's getting closer to the Overhaul arc, but Overhaul doesn't happen. For one simple fact, the Elder Gods are there, and they have given Raiden and Fujin permission to enforce the repression of evil meaning Overhaul, someone who was causing trouble, got dealt with by Raiden. So yes, Raiden took care of Overhaul, so that whole arc does not happen. And as for his whole organization, well, it falls apart. Eri is rescued, and she's growing up in a place not of UA, but in a hospital, and she's later adopted by a sweet family who raises her. So, that's what happened to Eri. And as for Deku, he gets ready for his best friend's funeral. He was discharged, and him and Asui are dating now, as it's a double funeral. One for Bakugo, one for Enosa. As Deku can't help but the tears flow down his face, even Todoroki's crying. His parents are there to comfort him along with his brother and sister. And really, Asui's there to comfort Deku, along with his mother. As for Mitsuki and her husband, who just lost their son, Deku comforts them as well because they think of Deku as their own son. After all, they grew up together with Deku and Bakugo, and Bakugo helped out Deku all his life and even in death. So after the funeral, Deku just chills. He goes through school, graduates, and becomes a hero that would make his dad proud. And that is What If Deku Was a Reptile. As always, I've been the Crown Clown, and I hope to see you all again next time. Peace.